Hello. Isn't that common misnomers that come up all the time? Well, by the way, welcome to sunny Sanibel Island, Florida. Behind me you can see the Sanibel Island Lighthouse, at top of which is currently perched an eagle. I might catch him later with the Tamron 70-200. And the question that has to be defined is what defines a professional DSLR and versus an amateur DSLR or an advanced amateur, and the line really is not well defined. One might think it might be a magnesium chassis, or more specifically it might come to mind that, of course I don't know if you plan on hammering nails with your camera or if you plan on dropping it very often, but having insurance is a necessity regardless of what sort of camera you've got. And I've taken most of them apart, most of them being dead, and they're incredibly complicated inside. I mean, just incredibly so. And they're all sealed specifically against pervasive weather, but not invasive weather. And so it doesn't matter if you have a Nikon D4S or a Nikon D3300. As far as your weather sealing goes, or it doesn't matter if it's Canon or Nikon or Fuji or anybody else, you're screwed against invasive weather intrusion as far as humidity. You go in and out of cold climates. So that is not what defines a professional DSLR, nor is it necessitatively the shutter assembly, which outside of Nikon going through KEH Photo down in Smyrna, Georgia, that $600 to replace your shutter assembly. That also is not what defines a professional DSLR. Yeah, I mean, I know your Nikon D3, my D3s or the D4Ss that can go upwards $300,000-$500,000, even more than that. I know that more than a few people have gone 600,000 plus shutter clicks before having to drop $600 in a shutter assembly replacement. However, what really does define as far as where you leave the game in Nikon's DSLRs is leaving the D3000 series and the D5000 series, D7000 and above, including the older expired and no longer currently being made Nikon D300 and D700, but D7000 and above as far as current production cameras, where you're able to use that huge array of Nikkor AI and AIS lenses. That's one of the huge disadvantages of D3000, D5000. You can use them, but you have no non-CPU metering, so you have to wing it. And there is no screw drive on the camera for powering up or driving the autofocus on the D-series autofocus Nikkor. So that's an extreme hindrance. To me, that's actually the borderline. I can't necessarily say that's subjective, that is subjective, but objectively so, this is where Nikon is wrong about even its own cameras waving at the tourists as they pass by. They actually rate, the D7100 and even the D750, which I'm filming this on, as an advanced amateur camera. And it's not. That clear defining line, like above the Nikon D750 up to the D3, for example, well, the D3 isn't made anymore, but what defines an entry-level or an advanced amateur camera, an advanced amateur between the professional DSLR, like between the D750 or the D4S or the D750 versus the D3, or even the D7100 versus the D3. I mean, yeah, you have a larger buffer. We know about this. So if you're a sports or action photographer, that is the case. But I mean, how many of you are paid sports photographers? If you are, you'd be writing the camera off on your taxes anyway. So the misnomer that Nikon has on their own website, or that camera retail stores will tell you that, well, this is a professional DSLR. Well, it's just a load of crap. I mean, it's not the case. It's also not the case that FX and DX defines professional versus advanced amateur cameras. Yes, the Nikon D7100 has a DX sensor, but that is not anything that defines it as an advanced amateur camera. Does it have the buffer of the D7200 or the D750 or the D3? No, it doesn't. But ultimately, are you a sports photographer? Do you actually need that? Are you shooting club scenes? Or are you shooting nightlife where you got to have an enormous buffer? It is also certainly not low light capability, because even the camera that I'm shooting this on currently, Nikon D750, more importantly, and this needs to be made for another video, what defines it as an advanced amateur camera, which is what Nikon defines it as, certainly not as a sensor, because the sensor on the Nikon D750 is nothing other than a revamped sensor as found on the D600 and the D610. More important than the sensor is the AD converters, is specifically the SNR firmware that actually signals the noise ratio, that takes out a lot of that noise and makes a Nikon D750 a winner for low light photography. So as far less so the sensor, people talk, well, so so-and-so, Sony makes this sensor for Nikon, like the D810 is a Sony sensor. Well, that's true, but what actually makes the output on the D810 so incredible is not the fact that it has a Sony sensor in it, it is those AD converters and the SNR firmware algorithms that exist post-processor use. So, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.